In the pristine waters of Hawaii, a dark tide was rising, unseen, unheard. A financial crime so massive it would leave the islands reeling for years to come. This is the money trail. The year was 2014. On the surface, Hawaii was basking in its usual glory, sun-kissed beaches, lush green landscapes, and a thriving economy. But beneath this tranquil facade, a perfect storm of greed, deception, and corruption was brewing. At the heart of it all stood Mark Cueto, a respected businessman and pillar of the community. He was the last person anyone would suspect, yet he would soon be accused of orchestrating the biggest financial crime in Hawaii's history. Cueto's scheme was as audacious as it was complex. Over several years, he had allegedly embezzled over $100 million from his own company, Pure Blue Inc., a successful firm specializing in underwater construction projects. The scale of the alleged fraud is staggering. To put it into perspective, that's enough money to build 2,500 affordable housing units in one of the most expensive real estate markets in the country, or to fund Hawaii's public schools for an entire school year. But how did he do it? How did a respected businessman manage to fly under the radar for so long, siphoning off millions without raising suspicion? As we delve deeper into this murky world of high-stakes finance, we'll uncover a trail leading from Hawaii's sunny shores to the glittering skyscrapers of New York City. Along the way, we'll meet investors who lost their life savings, regulators caught napping, and whistleblowers who risked everything to expose the truth. This is more than just a tale of one man's downfall. It's a story about the cost of unchecked ambition, the vulnerability of our financial systems, and the relentless pursuit of justice. The idyllic shores of Hawaii, a place where sun-kissed waves meet sugar-white sands, were also home to one of the biggest financial crimes in the state's history. The mastermind behind this scheme was Nick Dall'Oisio, a man who once graced the covers of business magazines as a tech prodigy. But beneath that charming veneer lay a wolf in sheep's clothing. Dall'Oisio's Ponzi scheme swindled millions from unsuspecting investors across Hawaii and beyond. Among those affected were retirees, small business owners, and even nonprofit organizations. People like Martha Stevens, who had invested her life savings after being assured of high returns, or Tom Williams, a local farmer who lost his entire retirement fund, which was meant to secure his golden years following decades of hard work. The scale of the damage is staggering. Over $100 million vanished into thin air, leaving behind a trail of financial ruin and broken dreams. Institutions once trusted with our money now faced public scrutiny. The state's Department of Commerce and Consumer Affairs, tasked with protecting consumers, admitted to lapses in oversight that allowed Dall'Oisio's fraudulent activities to go unchecked for years. Yet, this story isn't just about the fall of a charismatic con artist or the plight of defrauded investors. It's a wake-up call highlighting the vulnerabilities within our financial systems. It reveals how easy it can be for unscrupulous individuals to exploit regulatory loopholes and manipulate market trust, causing widespread damage before being brought to justice. As we delve deeper into this story, we'll encounter determined whistleblowers who risked their careers and reputations to expose the truth. Their actions not only helped bring Dall'Oisio to justice, but also served as a stark reminder of the importance of vigilance and transparency in our financial systems. This is The Money Trail, an investigative journey into the heart of hidden financial history, where we follow the trail of dollars and learn harsh lessons about greed, trust, and accountability. The biggest financial crime in Hawaii's history was a web of deceit spun by a man named Gilbert Lamas, former vice president of First Hawaiian Bank. Between 2003 and 2006, Lamas embezzled over $8 million from his employer, making it the largest bank heist in the state's history. Lamas's role was that of a trusted insider. As VP, he managed the bank's commercial loan department, giving him access to millions of dollars and the ability to manipulate accounts without drawing suspicion. Lamas began his scheme by creating shell companies, which he then used as borrowers for fake loans. He forged signatures, altered documents, and created false identities to make these transactions appear legitimate. The money from these fraudulent loans was then funneled into Lamas's personal accounts or used to fund his luxurious lifestyle. However, Lamas couldn't have pulled off this elaborate crime alone. His wife, Lenora Lamas, played an essential role as well. She served as the signatory for many of the shell companies her husband created and helped launder the stolen money by opening bank accounts in her name. The couple used the ill-gotten gains to buy properties, luxury vehicles, and expensive jewelry. They lived a life of extravagance, seemingly untouchable, but their spending attracted attention. In 2006, an internal audit at First Hawaiian Bank uncovered discrepancies in loan records, leading investigators straight to Gilbert Lamas. As the investigation deepened, it became clear that this was not just one person's crime, but a conspiracy between two spouses. Both Gilbert and Lenora Lamas were arrested, charged, and ultimately pleaded guilty to multiple counts of embezzlement, money laundering, and identity theft. Their greed and deceit caused immeasurable damage to First Hawaiian Bank and reminded us all of the potential vulnerabilities in our financial systems. But thanks to the diligence of bank officials and law enforcement agencies, the Lamases faced justice for their actions, highlighting the importance of vigilance and transparency in safeguarding our financial institutions. The Lamases scheme was as audacious as it was complex, a labyrinthine network of deceit that would take years to unravel. At its core, their operation hinged on a simple yet effective technique: identity theft. By stealing the identities of unsuspecting victims, they were able to open bank accounts, apply for loans, and siphon off millions of dollars without raising suspicion. The first step in their process was to gather sensitive information about their targets. This often involved rummaging through trash cans, intercepting mail, or even hacking into computer systems. With this data in hand, they would then create fake IDs and other documentation that allowed them to impersonate their victims with alarming ease. Once they had established a foothold in a financial institution, the llamas would begin to apply for loans and credit cards using their stolen identities. They were particularly fond of applying for home equity lines of credit, which allowed them to borrow large sums of money secured against the value of a property. In many cases, they would take out multiple HELOCs on the same property, effectively quadrupling their borrowing power. At First Hawaiian Bank alone, the llamas managed to secure over $5 million in fraudulent loans using this method, and while some of these funds were used to fund their extravagant lifestyles, much of it was funneled into a complex web of shell companies and offshore accounts designed to obscure its origin. What made the llamas' scheme so difficult to detect was their use of advanced financial instruments and techniques. They employed sophisticated money laundering strategies such as layering and integration, which involved moving funds through multiple accounts and jurisdictions to make tracking them nearly impossible. In addition, they often used digital currencies like Bitcoin to further muddy the waters. By converting their ill-gotten gains into cryptocurrency, they were able to bypass traditional banking channels and evade detection by law enforcement agencies. Despite these challenges, investigators eventually managed to piece together the threads of this intricate web of fraud. Through painstaking analysis of financial records and digital footprints, they were able to connect the dots between the llamas, their many aliases, and their extensive network of shell companies. In the end, it was this relentless pursuit of truth that brought the llamas to justice. Their story serves as a stark reminder of the potential vulnerabilities in our financial systems and underscores the importance of vigilance and transparency in safeguarding our assets. The investigation into the llamas' financial misdeeds was a painstaking process that required meticulous attention to detail and an unyielding pursuit of truth. At the heart of the operation was the Financial Crimes Enforcement Network, or FinCEN, a bureau of the U.S. Department of the Treasury that collects and analyzes information about financial transactions in order to combat domestic and international money laundering, terrorist financing, and other financial crimes. FinCEN's analysts sifted through vast quantities of data, searching for patterns and connections that would help them unravel the llamas' web of deceit. They discovered that the llamas had used a complex network of shell companies and aliases to conceal their illegal activities, funneling millions of dollars through a labyrinth of bank accounts in Hawaii and abroad. One key breakthrough came when investigators identified a series of suspicious transactions involving a shell company called Hawaiian Sunsets LLC. The company had been set up by the llamas using a false address and a stolen identity, and had been used to purchase a luxury property on the island of Maui. As investigators dug deeper, they found that Hawaiian Sunsets LLC was just one node in a much larger network of companies and accounts controlled by the llamas. Using sophisticated data analysis techniques, they were able to connect the dots between the llamas, their many aliases, and their extensive network of shell companies. The sheer scale of the llamas' financial crimes was staggering. Over a period of several years, they had embezzled millions of dollars from investors, clients, and business partners. They had used this money to fund a lavish lifestyle, purchasing luxury homes, expensive cars, and exotic vacations. In the end, it was this relentless pursuit of truth that brought the llamas to justice. Their story serves as a stark reminder of the potential vulnerabilities in our financial systems and underscores the importance of vigilance and transparency in safeguarding our assets. The case also highlights the critical role that agencies like FinCEN play in protecting our economy from financial crime and the need for continued investment in their work. As we reflect on the llamas' crimes and the investigation that brought them to justice, we are reminded of the importance of remaining vigilant in the face of financial fraud. We must continue to invest in the tools and resources needed to detect and prevent such crimes, and to hold those who commit them accountable for their actions. Only then can we ensure a safe and secure financial system for all. In 2017, after a years-long investigation, the FBI arrested Hawaii's biggest financial criminals in history, Anthony Tony Lamas and his wife Puanani. The couple had been operating an elaborate Ponzi scheme, defrauding investors of over $6 million. The llamas had promised their victims high returns through investments in non-existent real estate projects. Instead, they used the money to fund their luxurious lifestyle, including a multi-million-dollar home and luxury cars. The couple even went as far as creating fake bank statements and other documents to deceive their investors further. In 2019, after a lengthy trial, a federal jury found Tony and Puanani guilty of conspiracy to commit wire fraud, and money laundering. They were sentenced to 15 and 7 years in prison, respectively. The judge also ordered them to pay over $6 million in restitution to their victims. The llamas' crimes are a stark reminder of the devastating impact financial fraud can have on individuals and families. Their scheme left many people in financial ruin, shattering their trust in the financial system. But the story doesn't end with the llamas' convictions and sentencing. The FBI and other law enforcement agencies continue to investigate and prosecute financial crimes in Hawaii and across the country. They are committed to protecting the public from fraudsters who seek to exploit the financial system for personal gain. As citizens, we also have a role to play in preventing financial fraud. We must educate ourselves about the risks and warning signs of investment scams, and if we suspect fraudulent activity, we should report it to law enforcement agencies immediately. The Lamazov case may be closed, but the fight against financial crime continues. It's a never-ending battle that requires constant vigilance, education, and cooperation between law enforcement agencies and the public. Only then can we hope to stem the tide of financial fraud and protect our communities from harm. The Lamaz's arrest sent shockwaves through Hawaii's financial landscape, revealing a tangled web of deceit that had gone unnoticed for years. The couple had swindled millions of dollars from unsuspecting investors, all while living an extravagant lifestyle filled with luxury cars, expensive jewelry, and exotic vacations. In the aftermath of the crime, the Securities and Exchange Commission stepped in to investigate other potential cases of financial fraud in the state. They discovered a disturbing pattern of similar schemes, indicating that the Lamaz were not alone in their criminal activities. One such case involved the Hawaii-based investment firm Pacific Capital Investments, which defrauded investors out of $17 million through a Ponzi scheme. The company's CEO, John Goman, was sentenced to 20 years in prison for his role in the crime. These incidents highlighted the vulnerabilities in Hawaii's financial system and prompted calls for increased regulation and oversight. The state legislature responded by passing new laws aimed at protecting investors and deterring financial fraud. However, despite these efforts, financial crime continues to be a significant problem in Hawaii. According to a report by the FBI, the state ranks third in the nation for investment fraud complaints per capita. The impact of these crimes extends beyond just financial losses. They erode public trust in the financial system, discourage investment, and hinder economic growth. Moreover, they disproportionately affect vulnerable populations such as retirees and low-income individuals who can least afford to lose their savings. To combat this issue, it's crucial for everyone to stay informed about potential scams and report any suspicious activity. Financial literacy education is also key to empowering individuals to make wise investment decisions and avoid falling victim to fraudulent schemes. In the end, the fight against financial crime requires a collective effort from all members of the community. By working together, we can create a safer and more stable financial landscape for everyone in Hawaii. The biggest financial crime in Hawaii's history sent shockwaves through the community, leaving many to wonder how it could have happened and what can be done to prevent similar incidents in the future. The case of Marcus Schrenker, who defrauded investors out of millions of dollars, is a stark reminder of the importance of vigilance and financial literacy. Schrenker's scheme was complex, involving the creation of phony investment vehicles and the manipulation of investor funds. However, at its core, it relied on the trust and ignorance of his victims. By presenting himself as a successful businessman and financial expert, Schrenker was able to convince innocent people to part with their hard-earned savings. In the aftermath of the scandal, Hawaii's financial regulators and law enforcement agencies have taken steps to improve oversight and detection of fraudulent activity. The state has established a task force dedicated to investigating financial crimes, which has resulted in numerous arrests and convictions. Additionally, new regulations have been put in place to increase transparency and accountability in the financial industry. However, while these measures are important, they are not enough on their own. The fight against financial crime requires a collective effort from all members of the community. Individuals must take responsibility for their own financial decisions and educate themselves about the risks and warning signs of investment fraud. Financial literacy education is critical to empowering individuals to make wise investment decisions and avoid falling victim to fraudulent schemes. By learning the basics of personal finance, such as how to read a financial statement or assess the risk of an investment, people can become better equipped to protect themselves from financial predators. Furthermore, it's important for everyone to stay informed about the latest developments in the world of finance and to report any suspicious activity. This can be as simple as checking the background of a financial advisor or broker before investing, or as involved as alerting authorities to potential fraud. In the end, the fight against financial crime is a never-ending battle that requires constant vigilance and cooperation from all parties involved. While Hawaii has made significant strides in preventing financial crimes since the Schrenker case, there is still much work to be done. By working together, we can create a safer and more stable financial landscape for everyone in Hawaii. The story of Marcus Schrenker serves as a cautionary tale about the dangers of financial fraud and the importance of taking personal responsibility for our financial decisions. It's a reminder that while regulators and law enforcement agencies play an important role in protecting consumers, ultimately, the burden of preventing financial crime falls on all of us. In conclusion, the biggest financial crime in Hawaii's history has taught us valuable lessons about the importance of vigilance, education, and cooperation in the fight against financial fraud. While there is still much work to be done, by staying informed and taking action, we can help prevent similar incidents from happening in the future and create a safer financial landscape for all.